A good evening, dear traveler. The day has finally loosened its grip, and the world beyond your window can wait until morning. For now, there is nowhere to hurry, nothing to solve, and nothing to remember except the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. Find a comfortable place, allow your thoughts to drift as gently as leaves upon still water, and if these peaceful journeys through forgotten civilizations bring you a little comfort, you are warmly invited to join us again by subscribing to Human and Time. There will always be another road waiting beyond the next horizon. Tonight our footsteps lead into a forest where stone rises like mountains above an endless sea of green. Not to conquer it, not to explain it, only to live within it for a while, long before the first light touches the crowns of the ceiba trees, before birds awaken, and before mist begins its slow ascent through the jungle. Another silence already exists here. It rests upon pale limestone ridges that have watched centuries arrive without surprise. Beneath them lies a world shaped not by haste, but by patience measured one stone at a time. The people who built this place called it Mutal. Today many know it as Tikal, yet names are like echoes. They change with time, while the forest continues breathing exactly as it always has. Imagine yourself standing where the earth gently rises above the surrounding wetlands. Around you stretches an immense tropical canopy, its countless leaves weaving together into a living roof nearly 40 meters above the forest floor. Beyond that green ceiling, only the tallest temples reach the open sky. They seem less like buildings than quiet companions of the clouds. The city was never placed by accident. Nearly 40% of the surrounding landscape consists of seasonal bajos, low-lying wetlands that flood and dry with the rhythm of the seasons. Their soil traps water and mist, but the great monuments never descended into them. Instead, every major structure rests securely upon elevated limestone ridges where rain drains naturally through ancient karst beneath the earth. The city grows where the land itself remains steady. Even before a single block was lifted, the hills had already chosen their guardians. If you kneel for a moment and place your hand upon the ground, the stone beneath your fingertips feels unexpectedly rough. Tiny pores scatter across its surface like invisible constellations. This limestone was born during the Cretaceous period beneath ancient seas, unimaginably older than the civilization that would one day carve it. Its journey from ocean floor to sacred city required millions of years. The builders merely continued a story the earth had already begun. Nearby, the first workers begin their quiet labor. No iron strikes the stone, no steel flashes beneath the morning light. Metal tools are absent from this world. Instead, hands hold carefully shaped chert blades, whose sharp edges patiently score the limestone again and again. Heavy basalt hammerstones answer with measured blows. Wooden wedges slide into natural cracks before water is poured over them. As the wood slowly expands, invisible pressure travels through the rock until, almost without warning, the great block separates from the ridge with a deep and satisfying breath. The forest listens. Nothing is hurried. Every fracture follows the hidden which is already sleeping inside the stone. The newly freed blocks do not travel far. The quarries themselves sit beside the monuments they will someday become. Distance steals neither strength nor precious time. Generation after generation, workers remove the limestone, shaping plazas, terraces, temples, stairways, and walls from the very ground upon which they stand. Eventually the quarries fall silent. Their purpose changes. The empty hollows are carefully lined with clay until water can no longer escape through the porous bedrock. During the long dry months, rain collected from previous seasons gathers inside these quiet basins, becoming reservoirs that patiently sustain the city long after the clouds have disappeared. Even absence is transformed into usefulness. A wound in the earth becomes a vessel for life. Perhaps this is why the city feels less constructed than grown. Every stone remembers where it once rested. Every reservoir remembers being solid ground. Nothing is discarded. Everything simply changes its purpose. As the rising sun slowly warms the limestone, another labor unfolds nearby. Crushed stone disappears into roaring kilns where intense fires burn close to 900 degrees Celsius. The flames consume astonishing quantities of green wood before the pale rock yields its hidden transformation. From stone comes lime, from lime comes stucco, and from stucco comes the smooth white skin that covers the city. The effort is immense. To create a single ton of lime cement, many tons of fresh wood vanish into fire. Forest and architecture become quietly connected. One feeds the other. When the plaster is finally spread across terraces and plazas, rough stone disappears beneath broad, seamless surfaces. Thick coatings seal walls against rain, smooth every stair, waterproof enormous public spaces, and prepare them for another gift. Color. Iron, rich pigments stain the finished monuments with deep shades of red. Imagine the first morning after completion. Sunlight rises across fresh crimson temples instead of weathered grey ruins. The city glows like warm embers beneath the tropical sky. Centuries have carried those colors away. But tonight, within our imagination, they are still new. A soft breeze moves across the plaza. It carries the faint scent of warm limestone, damp earth, crushed leaves, and distant vegetation still releasing the night's moisture. Somewhere high within the canopy, unseen insects produce a delicate chorus that rises and falls like breathing itself. The city answers not with noise but with balance. Stone gathers warmth, trees gather water, the air gathers silence. As daylight grows stronger, your attention slowly follows a single monument emerging above the plaza. Its terraces rise one after another, narrowing as they climb toward the heavens. 9 immense levels, each leaning gently inward, each carrying the weight of the next. This is the temple later known as the Temple of the Great Jaguar, completed around the year 732 of the Common Era during the reign of Jisor Chan Kewal I. It stands 47 meters above the plaza floor. Yet its true beginning does not lie at its summit. It begins far below your feet. Deep within the limestone bedrock rests Burial 116. There, beneath thousands upon thousands of carefully placed stones, lies the ruler whose memory the monument quietly protects. The pyramid is not merely built above him, it grows from him. Every ascending terrace becomes another layer of remembrance. Every stone placed higher carries the weight of every stone beneath. If you slowly climb the stairway, each step shortens your conversation with the earth while bringing you closer to the sky. The limestone beneath your sandals still holds yesterday's sunlight, releasing gentle warmth into the cool morning air. Fine traces of chalk, like stucco dust, gather softly upon your fingertips whenever you steady yourself against the walls. Nothing here feels cold. Even stone remembers the day. At the summit waits a narrow sanctuary formed by 3 small chambers, connected one after another beneath graceful corbelled vaults. Massive sapodilla wood lintels support the doorways with quiet confidence. Their dense timber has carried unimaginable weight for generations, standing between earth and sky with the same patience as the forest from which they once grew. From here, the city no longer feels crowded. Instead, it breathes. Every plaza, every rooftop, every distant temple, every patch of forest, all seem to rise and fall together beneath the endless rhythm of time. And somewhere beyond the trees, where tomorrow's light is already preparing to arrive, another stone is still waiting quietly beneath the earth, unaware that it, too, will one day become part of this living city. The hidden block has rested beneath the hill for ages longer than any pair of human hands could remember. Rain has washed over it through countless wet seasons. Dry winds have warmed it through endless summers. Roots have slowly traced its surface, never rushing, never claiming ownership, only sharing the same quiet passage of time. Eventually, gentle hands discover it once more. The stone yields without protest. Not because it is conquered, but because it has already spent millions of years learning patience. As each block joins another, the temple rises almost imperceptibly, less like a monument assembled than a hillside slowly remembering a different shape. Those who lift the weight do not witness the finished summit. Many will leave this world before the final roof greets the clouds. Yet every careful movement carries equal meaning. The unseen stone buried deep within the foundation supports the one nearest the heavens with perfect humility. Perhaps this is why great cities endure. Their highest places depend forever upon those that remain invisible. The morning continues to unfold without haste. Sunlight slips across broad layers of hardened stucco that cover the plaza beneath your feet. The surface feels remarkably smooth compared with the porous limestone hidden underneath, though a faint powder of pale calcium still clings softly to the skin wherever a hand lingers against it. Centuries of footsteps have not erased this quiet conversation between stone and touch. Look across the open space. The great plaza stretches almost like a calm inland sea between its surrounding monuments, nearly 100 meters from one side to the other, and even farther along its longer edge. Its floor is not the work of one generation. Beneath the surface lie older skins of the city, each new layer of stucco carefully spread above another as years became decades and decades quietly settled into centuries. No layer erased the previous one. Each simply carried it forward. The earth remembers by accumulation. Time here is never discarded. On the northern side, terraces and stairways gather into an immense living hillside known today as the North Acropolis. More than 100 structures have slowly emerged there across generations, each resting upon older foundations hidden beneath its weight. The hill itself has become a memory written in limestone instead of ink. To the south, another rhythm unfolds. Rooms rise above rooms. Courtyards open into shaded passages. Balconies overlook silent plazas. This is not a single palace, but a collection of lives carefully arranged together, where rulers once moved through narrow corridors, while warm air drifted gently between stone walls, carrying the scent of fresh plaster, damp earth, and distant flowering trees. The city has never belonged to buildings alone. It belongs equally to the empty spaces between them. A quiet pause inside a courtyard. the cool shadow beneath an overhanging roof, the open breath of the plaza after leaving a narrow stairway. Even silence has architecture. Listen carefully. Someone far away raises a hand. A single clap breaks the stillness. For an instant, nothing seems unusual. Then the city answers, not with a simple echo. The sound changes as it returns. Its sharp beginning softens into something that seems almost alive, descending gently through invisible tones until it resembles the brief call of a forest bird disappearing into the canopy. The stairways themselves have divided the sound, each terrace offering back a different voice, each step delaying its reply by the smallest fraction of time. Stone has learned to sing without moving. One clap becomes many. One moment becomes a gentle cascade. Even the air seems surprised. The polished stucco of the plaza refuses to swallow the sound. Dense limestone walls answer from every direction, while the warm tropical air accepts almost nothing for itself. The voice remains above the ground, gliding effortlessly across the open space as though the city had stretched an invisible skin between its monuments. Words spoken here need not struggle. Imagine a quiet figure standing within the summit shrine above the Eastern Temple. No shout leaves their lips, only an ordinary human voice. It slips outward across the plaza with remarkable ease, carried first by height, then gently reflected by the broad floor below. Before long, another listener waits atop the opposite temple. Though separated by nearly 100 meters, the words arrive with unexpected clarity, as if distance itself had become unusually kind. No walls imprison the voice. The entire plaza becomes its chamber. Below, listeners need not crowd together. They simply stand within the embrace of stone. Far beyond these plazas, however, another world begins. The jungle does not return voices so generously. Leaves soften every sharp sound. Branches interrupt every hurried word. The enormous canopy drinks high notes until they fade among thousands of living surfaces. On the forest floor, distance quickly dissolves into green silence. Yet the temples refuse to remain below the leaves. Their summits rise beyond the canopy, entering a different atmosphere altogether. From there, the wind itself becomes a quiet companion. It threads gently through the porous roof combs high above the shrines, where countless openings interrupt the solid masonry. As air passes through these carefully balanced structures, low whistles emerge almost by themselves. Not loud enough to command attention, only soft enough to remind anyone listening that even still stone continues breathing alongside the forest. Perhaps these sounds belong neither to architecture nor to wind alone. Perhaps they exist only because both have agreed to meet. Imagine standing upon the summit of the tallest temple as afternoon slowly begins its descent. The forest stretches endlessly in every direction, a green ocean rolling toward horizons hidden beneath distant haze. Somewhere beyond your sight, another temple rises above the trees. No messenger runs between them. Instead, a wooden tunkel drum speaks. Its deep voice leaves the summit and travels over the canopy without interruption. Carried by open air rather than tangled branches, the low rhythm crosses the city with remarkable patience until another temple receives it, answering in its own measured time. No words are necessary. The jungle listens. The stone listens. The wind remembers. Far below, where roots wander quietly through damp soil, the forest continues its own conversations. Insects weave delicate threads of sound through the undergrowth. Small birds disappear between shafts of sunlight. Moisture slowly rises from shaded earth as the day grows warmer, carrying with it the familiar fragrance of limestone, fresh leaves, and hidden water resting patiently beneath clay-lined reservoirs. The warmth deepens upon the temple steps. Stone that absorbed the tropical sun now begins storing its quiet fire for the evening still to come. Long after daylight has faded, these terraces will continue offering gentle warmth back to the cooling air, creating small islands of comfort where night slowly gathers. Nothing here keeps warmth for itself. Everything returns what it has received. Perhaps this has always been the quiet wisdom of Mutal. The forest gives stone. Stone gathers sunlight. Sunlight becomes warmth. Warmth returns to the night. And somewhere beyond the tallest roofs, where the sky slowly widens toward another unseen horizon, the first movements of the heavens are already preparing the city for an entirely different kind of conversation. The sky changes so gradually that no one notices the precise moment when daylight begins speaking in longer shadows. The temples remain unmoving, yet the light that embraces them is never the same from one hour to the next. Stone does not resist these quiet transformations. It welcomes them, allowing every passing day to write another invisible page upon its familiar surface. Far to the west, another pyramid watches the journey of the sun with equal patience. Its broad stairway rises from the Mundo Perdido, the lost world, though nothing here has truly been lost. The name belongs to another age. The place itself continues waiting exactly where it has always stood, surrounded by trees that have inherited the silence of countless generations. If your footsteps wander there now, they slow almost without intention. The forest seems reluctant to hurry anyone who arrives. A warm breeze drifts through the open space between ancient structures, carrying the fragrance of damp bark and distant resin. Somewhere above, leaves brush softly together, while shafts of sunlight descend through small openings in the canopy like quiet visitors searching for familiar ground. The western pyramid rises before you, broad rather than towering, its weight settled deeply into the limestone ridge beneath it. Across the open court, 3 smaller temples rest upon a long eastern platform. They do not appear arranged for beauty alone. They wait, morning after morning, season after season, year after year. An observer standing upon the eastern stairway of the western pyramid discovers that the horizon itself has become part of their architecture. The distant temples are no longer simply buildings. They become markers gently placed where earth and sky meet. As the longest day of the year approaches, the first rays of sunrise greet the northern temple. Months later, during the quiet arrival of winter, dawn chooses the southern one instead. Between these two gentle extremes, there are mornings when the rising sun finds the temple standing perfectly at the center. Nothing moves, yet everything changes. The earth turns so quietly that only light reveals its journey. Perhaps patience has always been the oldest instrument of observation. There are no ticking clocks here, no polished brass mechanisms, only mornings that resemble one another just enough for their smallest differences to become meaningful. The people who stand upon these stones need not chase the heavens. They simply return, again and again. The sky eventually speaks to those willing to remain still. As the months pass, another remarkable morning quietly arrives. The air already carries the faint promise of distant rain, though no clouds have yet gathered above the forest. Humidity clings gently to the skin, softening every movement. The jungle seems to hold its breath beneath the growing warmth of the tropical sun. At midday, something unusual happens. The shadow beside a standing monument quietly retreats. It grows shorter, then smaller still, until for one brief moment it disappears altogether. Temple walls cast no sideways darkness. Stelae stand without companions upon the ground. The lintels above the shrines rest beneath a sun directly overhead. The world becomes strangely balanced. Nothing leans east, nothing leans west. Only for an instant, every vertical stone belongs completely to itself. Perhaps there are moments when even time chooses not to cast a shadow. Soon afterward, the forest begins changing its voice. Invisible moisture gathers above distant leaves. Warm air climbs steadily upward. The first towering clouds quietly assemble beyond the horizon, announcing that the season of generous rains is drawing near. No proclamation is necessary. The sky has already spoken. Water will soon answer. Elsewhere, another traveler lifts their eyes before dawn, long before sunlight reaches the temples. One brilliant light has returned to the eastern horizon after days of absence. It hangs there with unusual clarity against the fading darkness. Neither star nor wandering curiosity, but a familiar companion whose appearances follow their own measured rhythm. Its visits are separated by hundreds of days. Yet each return feels strangely intimate, like greeting an old friend who never promises exactly when they will arrive, only that they eventually will. The heavens keep their own calendar, not written upon parchment, not carved into stone, but carried gently by light itself. Below, carved monuments quietly preserve another rhythm. Run your fingertips across the face of a weathered stela. The grooves feel smooth where countless seasons have softened their edges. Fine grains of limestone settle beneath your nails while the carved symbols descend one beneath another like drops of rain finding their own path down a cliff face. Days become groups. Groups become greater cycles. Larger cycles embrace those before them. Each sign quietly rests within another, as though time itself has chosen to grow like rings hidden inside an ancient tree. Nothing here measures only yesterday. Everything remembers beginnings so distant that imagination alone can barely follow. Yet these immense distances are expressed through patient repetition rather than overwhelming numbers. One sunrise, another, a season, a lifetime. The movement is always the same, only the scale quietly expands. Perhaps eternity is simply ordinary days viewed from very far away. As evening slowly approaches, the western sky softens into warmer colors. Long shadows return across plazas that only hours before had held none at all. Their quiet reappearance feels almost comforting, as though the world has remembered an old habit after a brief moment of perfect balance. Birdsong gradually gives way to gentler voices. The forest prepares itself for another kind of life. High above, the first stars awaken while traces of daylight still linger beyond the trees. Soon the familiar cluster known today as the Pleiades rises higher into the darkening heavens. Tiny points of light gather closely together, delicate yet unmistakable, like something gently shaken across black velvet. To those who watch patiently, they resemble the rattle carried by a serpent whose presence is heard before it is seen. The sky does not always offer answers. Sometimes it offers images. The heart quietly completes the rest. Night deepens. Across the heavens, a pale river slowly reveals itself. It stretches from one horizon toward another, flowing without water, silent beyond all silence. At certain seasons it stands almost upright, rising through the darkness like a great living tree whose unseen roots descend beyond human sight, while its highest branches disappear into endless stars. At other times it bends gently across the sky, becoming a luminous road that no footsteps could ever wear smooth. Whether tree or pathway, it joins places no traveler could reach in a single lifetime. Below, the ceiba lifts its own branches through the humid air. Above, another tree quietly answers. Stone listens between them, and somewhere beyond the highest roof comes, where daylight has completely surrendered to the immense patience of the night, the forest is preparing to reveal voices that belong only to darkness. As the last traces of twilight dissolve above the western trees, the city does not fall asleep. It simply changes the language through which it speaks. Daylight had revealed shapes and colors. Darkness reveals distance, fragrance, warmth, and sound. The limestone beneath your feet has quietly stored the memory of the tropical afternoon. Even now, long after the sun has disappeared, a gentle warmth rises from every terrace and stair. The stone releases what it borrowed from the day with remarkable generosity, surrounding the temples with invisible islands of comfort, while the forest slowly exhales cooler air between the trunks. You notice it first upon your hands. The night itself is cool, the temple is not. Perhaps every enduring thing learns to return its gift slowly. A faint current of warm air climbs along the pyramid's broad face, carrying with it tiny particles of white stucco. They drift almost invisibly before disappearing into the darkness above, where the great roof column stands against the stars like a quiet lattice woven from stone and sky. There the slightest breeze finds countless narrow openings. A low breath follows. Not loud enough to interrupt silence, only enough to become part of it. The sound is difficult to locate. It seems to belong equally to the wind and the temple, as though neither could exist quite the same without the other. If you close your eyes, it resembles someone breathing peacefully nearby. The forest answers with a different rhythm. Far below the canopy, countless unseen insects begin weaving an endless fabric of delicate sound. Their voices overlap until no single call remains distinguishable. Instead, they become a continuous shimmer stretching from one end of the jungle to the other, soft enough to soothe, constant enough to erase the passing of minutes. Every now and then, deeper notes rise beneath this living tapestry. A frog hidden beside still water offers a slow, rounded call. Another replies from somewhere beyond the trees. Their conversation is unhurried. No one seems eager to finish speaking. Among the towering trunks, orchids that remained almost unnoticed beneath the day's brilliance quietly awaken. Their blossoms release fragrant clouds into the humid darkness, opening only now, when night flying moths begin their patient search through the forest. The perfume moves heavily through the still air, rich with sweet resinous notes that seem almost visible beneath the moonlight. Nothing rushes toward its purpose. The flower waits. The moth arrives. The forest continues. Somewhere nearby, jade ornaments shift gently as a figure walks across the plaza. The movement is almost silent except for the occasional meeting of polished stone against polished stone. A bright, crystalline clink, then another. The sound is unexpectedly delicate, small enough to disappear almost as soon as it is born. Yet within the immense quiet of the night, it carries surprising distance. Each piece of jade remains cool against warm skin despite the surrounding humidity. It has spent the evening exchanging its own quiet conversation with the air, never fully surrendering to the tropical heat. Suspended upon the chest, it catches faint moonlight before vanishing once again into shadow. Even precious things choose modesty beneath the stars. Above the ornaments, long quetzal feathers rise gently from an elaborate headdress. They seem almost weightless. Warm currents rising from the sun, heated limestone, lift them ever so slightly, producing the softest rustling whenever they brush together. Their colors are impossible to name completely beneath torchlight. Green becomes blue. Blue slips into black. Then, with the smallest movement, emerald quietly returns. The night refuses certainty. Everything changes according to the angle from which it is loved. Near one of the temple stairways, a slow procession gathers without urgency. No hurried footsteps disturb the plaza. Only measured movement. Only calm intention. Hands carry shallow ceramic braziers whose embers glow like tiny fragments of sunset preserved until after dark. Within them rests fresh resin gathered from the copal tree. As the first grains touch the coals, dense white smoke begins rising in slow, graceful spirals. Its fragrance spreads gently through the open air, sweet, earthy, bright with hidden citrus carried within the resin itself. The smoke lingers between the stone walls before climbing toward the stars, weaving itself around stairways and carved lintels until architecture and fragrance become impossible to separate. You breathe it almost without noticing. The mind grows quieter. Thoughts loosen their sharp edges. Silence expands from within rather than from without. Perhaps peace sometimes arrives as something invisible. The smoke drifts toward the summit shrine where darkness gathers more deeply beneath the corbelled vaults. Inside those narrow chambers, the air hardly moves. The fragrance settles patiently upon stone that has witnessed generation after generation passing beneath the same roof. Nothing within these walls seems eager to leave. Not warmth, not scent, not memory. A small flame begins consuming a folded sheet of bark paper resting within one of the braziers. The paper darkens. Its edges curl inward. A thin ribbon of smoke rises before thickening into a heavier cloud that turns slowly upon itself. It neither rushes upward nor disperses immediately into the open night. Instead, it lingers, twisting gently between firelight and shadow until its shape appears almost alive. For a brief moment, no one seems interested in explaining what they see. Some simply watch. The imagination has always preferred slow smoke to quick certainty. High overhead, the familiar band of stars stretches silently across the heavens once again. Yet the forest below is beginning another transformation of its own. The humid air cools little by little. Leaves surrender the warmth they gathered throughout the day. Moisture condenses invisibly upon bark, vines, and moss. The jungle breathes differently now. By the deepest hours of the night, cool air will settle into the surrounding bajos where the land gently sinks beneath the ridges. There, unseen by most sleeping eyes, a pale sea of fog will slowly begin gathering between the trees. It arrives quietly, without wind, without announcement, only temperature guiding water into another form. From the lower ground, white mist gradually rises through the forest until trunks fade, then shrubs, then entire hillsides disappear beneath a soft blanket of cloud resting upon the earth itself. Yet the tallest temples continue standing above it. Far above the hidden city, the summit of Temple Ivy remains untouched by the gathering veil. From there, one could look outward across an astonishing horizon where treetops vanish beneath a luminous ocean of white, while the heavens remain perfectly clear overhead. The stars seem closer. The world below grows quieter. Between the bright constellations above and the silent fog beneath, the temple becomes something suspended between two infinities, belonging completely to neither. Perhaps there are places where earth briefly remembers how to resemble the sky. Above the white veil resting across the forest, the air feels unexpectedly clear. Moisture remains below, gathered patiently among the bajos where the earth dips beneath the limestone ridges. Up here, every breath is lighter, and the stars appear so numerous that the spaces between them seem almost as meaningful as the stars themselves. The summit is wonderfully quiet. Only the slow whisper of moving air slips through the carved openings of the great roof column. It carries no destination, no urgency. It simply passes through stone that has watched more nights than any living memory could contain. If you rest your hand against the temple wall, its warmth has softened since sunset. The limestone no longer releases the generous heat of evening. Instead, it shares only the final traces of what it carefully preserved throughout the day, as though reluctant to let even the smallest fragment of sunlight disappear without gratitude. Below, hidden completely beneath the pale ocean of mist, the city has become invisible. Yet invisibility has never meant absence. Plazas still wait beneath the fog. Courtyards still hold their silence. Stella continues standing exactly where they stood yesterday. The ceiba trees still lift their branches toward the heavens, even though only their upper crowns remain visible above the white sea. Sometimes the world asks not to be seen, only trusted. Across this elevated stillness, a solitary watcher remains awake. There is nothing hurried in the way the gaze moves across the heavens. Ice travels slowly from one familiar point of light to another, not searching for surprises, but recognizing companions whose return has become part of life's quiet rhythm. One season leaves, another arrives. The stars rarely announce either. Far overhead, the broad river of the Milky Way stretches across the darkness once again. Tonight its luminous band rises almost upright above the world, connecting the hidden forest below with immeasurable heights beyond human reach. It resembles the trunk of an immense tree rooted somewhere beneath the unseen mist, while its branches disappear into distances no traveler can measure. Not every tree grows from soil. Some seem to grow from wonder. The familiar ceiba resting within the forest shares this silent posture. Its roots disappear into cool limestone, while its crown welcomes moonlight filtering through the humid air. Between the living tree and the celestial one, the temples stand with remarkable humility, neither attempting to replace nature nor imitate it completely. Instead, they quietly participate. Perhaps this is enough. The wind shifts ever so slightly. Somewhere far beyond the fog, a low wooden drum answers. The sound arrives gently, softened by distance rather than diminished by it. It rises above the forest canopy before gliding through open night toward another temple standing upon a different ridge. One measured note, then silence. Another note follows much later. There is no impatience between them. Across the sleeping city, The pauses carry as much meaning as the sound itself. Stone has always understood that silence is never empty. It is simply where echoes choose to rest. Not long afterward, another voice joins the darkness. Deep within the unseen forest, a male howler monkey greets the remaining hours before dawn. His call rolls across the jungle with astonishing depth, resonating through the humid night until every ridge seems to answer in sympathy. The sound is immense, yet strangely comforting. It resembles distant thunder remembered rather than approaching. Its journey continues for kilometers through the canopy before dissolving into countless leaves glistening with invisible moisture. The forest has no walls. Still, every living thing seems to know exactly where the voice belongs. Lower among the hidden branches, quieter lives continue almost unnoticed. An ocelot moves across damp leaves with such gentleness that even the fallen foliage offers little resistance beneath padded paws. Nearby, somewhere beyond sight, another pair of eyes catches a fragment of moonlight. For a brief instant, two small reflections appear, golden, green, then gone. The jungle rarely reveals itself completely. It prefers gentle glimpses, enough to remind the traveler that unseen lives accompany every lonely path. As midnight drifts toward the deeper hours, the coolness becomes more noticeable. Moisture settles upon carved stairways in tiny droplets that gather silently along the edges of limestone blocks. Touch the smooth stucco now, and your fingertips return slightly damp, carrying both cool water and the faint chalk, like softness of ancient plaster. Every surface is slowly changing, without movement, without sound. Even stone continues breathing in its own patient way. Within one quiet chamber, the final threads of fragrant smoke still linger beneath the corbelled ceiling. The resin has long since surrendered to glowing embers, yet its presence remains suspended in the motionless air. Memory behaves similarly. The source fades. The fragrance remains. A small ornament of jade rests against woven cloth nearby. When lifted, it surprises the hand once again. Cool, dense, unwilling to accept the warmth of human skin too quickly. As it turns gently, two polished pieces touch. A clear, crystalline note escapes into the silence, before disappearing almost immediately into the great stillness surrounding it. Such a tiny sound, such an enormous night. Hours pass so softly that they almost escape notice. The heavens continue their endless turning while the earth quietly follows beneath them. Neither asks permission from the other, neither pauses. Their companionship has become so ancient that movement itself feels like another form of peace. Far below the mist, reservoirs patiently cradle the rain gathered during earlier seasons. Water waits beneath its clay, lined walls without anxiety, understanding that every dry month eventually remembers the generosity of clouds. Perhaps patience is simply another name for trust. The air cools a little more. Somewhere beyond the eastern horizon, hidden completely from sight, morning has already begun preparing its return. Not with brightness, but with possibility. The stars remain, the fog remains, the temples remain, yet everything is already becoming something new. Somewhere beyond the unseen horizon, darkness begins yielding with extraordinary reluctance. Nothing changes all at once. The stars remain steady. The fog still embraces the hidden forest, and the temples continue their patient watch above the white silence. Yet within the air itself, there is the faintest suggestion that night has reached the quietest point of its long conversation. This is the hour when the world seems to breathe most gently. Below the ridges, cool air has settled completely into the bajos. The valleys have become tranquil lakes of cloud whose soft surface conceals every winding path and every familiar clearing. From this height, the forest no longer appears as countless individual trees. It has become one continuous living ocean, rising and falling with the shape of the ancient land beneath. The city has not disappeared into it. It has simply entrusted itself to the morning. A tiny droplet gathers along the edge of a carved stone. Another forms beside it. They remain separate for only a moment before quietly joining into one clear bead that slips downward across centuries of weathered limestone. It carries no memory of the season before it, nor any expectation of where it will finally come to rest. Perhaps water teaches by never resisting change. Nearby, broad leaves glisten beneath the weight of moisture that condensed during the long tropical night. Every surface has welcomed the invisible gift offered by cooling air. Moss drinks without sound. Bark darkens slightly. Vines hold countless transparent pearls that tremble whenever the lightest breeze wanders through the canopy. Even before sunrise, the forest is already gathering tomorrow's rain. The limestone ridges beneath the city remain dry, exactly as they were chosen to be. Their quiet elevation has always offered refuge from the wetlands surrounding them. Here, foundations rest securely, while the lower ground accepts mist and seasonal water with equal grace. Neither place envies the other. Each fulfills its own gentle purpose. The highest temples continue overlooking both. Seen from this quiet summit, their relationship with the land becomes almost effortless. They do not challenge the hills beneath them. Instead, they seem to have grown from the ridges themselves, extending the patient work that the earth began long before the first hands touched stone. The mountain became architecture. Architecture remained mountain. There is comfort in not knowing where one ends and the other begins. The breeze changes direction. The faint fragrance of damp limestone now mingles with the sweetness of orchids that are preparing to close their blossoms as daylight approaches. Throughout the night they release their perfume generously into the humid air, inviting unseen visitors to continue the quiet exchange between flower and wing. Soon their work will be finished. Nothing in the forest blooms forever. Nothing needs to. A moth drifts away into the fading darkness. The blossom folds gently inward. Both continue belonging to the same story. Far above, a few stars have already surrendered to the growing brightness hidden beneath the eastern horizon. Others remain, lingering just a little longer before dissolving into morning. They leave without ceremony. The sky never mourns their departure. It simply welcomes another form of light. As the heavens brighten, almost imperceptibly carved monuments begin recovering their familiar shapes. The outlines of roof columns emerge first, followed by stairways, terraces, and broad platforms that slowly separate themselves from the surrounding darkness. For a brief interval, every monument exists only as a silhouette. Pure form, without color, without detail. Stone reveals its essence before revealing its face. Along one weathered stela, ancient glyphs begin catching the earliest traces of dawn. Their carved surfaces collect light inside narrow recesses, while the surrounding stone still rests in shadow. It seems as though the signs awaken one after another, quietly remembering the countless mornings they have already witnessed. The cycles recorded upon them have never hurried. Days became 20. 20 became greater measures. The greater measures embraced still larger ones. Yet standing here now, none of those immense reckonings feel distant. They all arrive through one simple sunrise. Time has always preferred gentle repetition over dramatic beginnings. The plaza below remains empty, or perhaps it only appears empty. Silence itself can become a kind of gathering. Every terrace still holds yesterday's warmth somewhere within its massive body, though only the deepest layers remember it now. Soon another day will begin storing fresh sunlight inside the same stone, continuing a quiet exchange that has repeated through generations beyond counting. Receive, hold, return. The temples have practiced this rhythm longer than memory. Somewhere across the hidden forest, another low call rolls through the humid air. The howler monkey who greeted the final hours of darkness now welcomes the first hints of morning. His voice travels over the canopy with astonishing ease, softened only slightly by the immense distance between ridge and ridge. The city answers not with echoes this time, but with listening. No reply interrupts him. The jungle already understands. Closer at hand, the first birds begin adding lighter notes to the fading chorus of insects. One voice appears, then another, until the darkness slowly loosens its hold upon sound itself. The night does not end abruptly. It gradually lends its silence to the morning. A final thread of cool mist brushes gently across the upper stairway before drifting downward once more. The summit remains clear while the lower world still sleeps beneath its white covering. Looking outward, it almost seems that the temples float between two skies, one above filled with fading stars, another below formed from luminous cloud. Between them stands a traveler, not above the world, not apart from it, simply present long enough to notice how quietly everything belongs together. And as the first hidden rays prepare to touch the eastern horizon, the city waits with the same calm patience it has always offered to every returning dawn, knowing that light, like memory, arrives most beautifully when nothing tries to hurry it. The eastern sky brightens so delicately that the forest accepts it before the eye fully notices. Blue slowly softens into silver, and silver quietly welcomes the first warmth of gold. The sea of mist resting among the bajos begins losing its sharp edges, dissolving into countless drifting ribbons that wander between unseen trunks before vanishing into the awakening air. The temples remain above them, patient as ever. For a little longer, their upper terraces still belong to the quiet world of night, while their lower stairways gradually return to morning. Between shadow and light, every stone seems suspended inside both moments at once. A single ray finally reaches the highest roof comb. It does not arrive with brilliance. It arrives with gentleness. The pale limestone receives it without resistance, and a faint glow begins descending terrace by terrace, as though the pyramid itself were slowly remembering its own form. Soon the warmth reaches the broad steps where countless feet have paused through generations. The stone has cooled through the long night, yet it accepts the new day immediately, storing another 12 hours of tropical sunlight deep within its massive body. Every dawn begins a promise. Every evening fulfills it. Nothing is forgotten between them. The last beads of dew resting upon smooth stucco shimmer briefly before disappearing. Some sink quietly into tiny pores invisible to the eye. Others return to the air from which they came. Their journey is so gentle that no boundary separates earth from sky. Water is always traveling, sometimes as cloud, sometimes as rain, sometimes simply as breath. Far below, hidden reservoirs remain still beneath clay-lined walls. Months earlier, generous storms filled them drop by drop until empty quarries became quiet mirrors reflecting passing clouds. Now they wait without anxiety, preserving what the forest entrusted to them during the season of abundance. The city survives not because it demands from nature, but because it remembers how to receive. Somewhere nearby, warm sunlight reaches a weathered limestone wall whose surface still carries faint traces of ancient red beneath centuries of rain and wind. The color is almost gone, almost. Yet even the smallest fragment suggests how different this place once appeared. Imagine every broad terrace clothed in deep iron, oxide crimson, beneath a brilliant tropical sky. The fresh plaster smooth enough to reflect light like calm water. Time has softened the colors, not the intention. Morning continues unfolding across the great plaza. Long shadows stretch gently from temple eye toward the open space before slowly retreating as the sun climbs higher. Opposite, Temple Tower welcomes the same light from another direction, and between them the broad stucco floor becomes a quiet stage where brightness itself seems to wander. No footsteps disturb it, only light crossing stone. Perhaps every day performs the same ceremony. No audience is required. The North Acropolis gradually emerges from lingering shade. Layer upon layer of ancient construction catches the morning in different ways. Some stairways glow immediately while others remain cool and grey, waiting a little longer before sunlight reaches them. The hill remembers every generation that added another structure to its growing body, not by speaking, by remaining. The palace complex to the south awakens differently. Narrow passages receive thin ribbons of light that drift across smooth walls before entering quiet courtyards where warm air begins gathering once again. Stone, shadow, and open sky exchange places hour by hour, creating rooms that never feel exactly the same twice. Architecture here follows the movement of the sun as naturally as leaves follow the wind. Nothing remains fixed except the patience with which everything changes. A hand brushes lightly across a carved lintel fashioned from sapodilla wood. Though generations have passed, the dense timber continues supporting the weight above with calm assurance. Its surface has become smoother where countless fingers have rested over the years, polished not by tools but by quiet familiarity. Wood remembers touch differently than stone. Stone keeps shape, wood keeps warmth. Both continue serving long after those who placed them have become memory. The fragrance of the morning shifts once more. Cool moisture gives way to warming earth. Leaves begin releasing fresh green scents awakened by sunlight, while distant resin rises gently from trees, touched by the growing heat. Somewhere within the forest, mahogany and cedar continue lifting water from hidden roots toward crowns already shimmering beneath the tropical sky. Invisible labor fills every living thing. The forest never appears busy, yet nothing within it is idle. High above the canopy, open blue slowly replaces the fading stars. The brilliant wanderer that greeted the eastern horizon before dawn has disappeared into daylight, though its journey continues unseen beyond the brightness. Not every companion remains visible. Some continue beside us beyond the reach of our eyes. The heavens understand this well. The earth does too. By mid-morning, warmth gathers steadily across the limestone ridges. Heat begins rising in delicate currents that ripple upward along the temples, gently stirring long quetzal feathers worn by passing figures. Their emerald surfaces shift almost imperceptibly between green and blue beneath the changing angle of the sun, revealing colors born not from pigment, but from light itself. The feathers do not possess these colors. They borrow them, just as the city borrows morning. Just as morning borrows the sun, a quiet breeze slips across the great plaza. It carries almost nothing except warmth and distance. Then, somewhere beyond the open space, a wooden drum offers a single measured note. The sound glides across smooth stucco, meets pale limestone, and returns with remarkable clarity. Yet in daylight its journey feels different than it did beneath the stars. Morning air has awakened birds, insects, and leaves. The city is no longer wrapped in the immense stillness of night. Even so, the voice of the drum finds its way, not because silence carries it, because the stone remembers how to listen. Above the plaza, white clouds begin gathering almost unnoticed. They are still small now, delicate towers rising from invisible currents over the warming forest. By afternoon they may become generous storms, or perhaps they will simply drift onward. The sky makes no promises, only possibilities, and beneath that ever-changing sky, where sunlight slowly climbs another ancient stairway, worn smooth by centuries of quiet passage, the city continues welcoming each new hour with the same unhurried grace that has always allowed stone, forest, water, and time to breathe together as one living world. The morning settles fully upon the limestone ridges, not as an arrival, but as a quiet continuation of everything the night carefully prepared. The mist has almost vanished now, leaving only a cool freshness lingering beneath the trees where sunlight still struggles to reach the forest floor. Above, the temples stand clear against an expanding blue sky, their outlines growing sharper with every passing moment. The warmth returns slowly, never all at once. The broad faces of the pyramids receive the sun according to their own direction, so that one stairway glows while another still rests in shade. The city awakens unevenly, as though each monument keeps its own private conversation with the heavens. Nothing insists upon moving together. Harmony does not require sameness. As the air grows warmer, delicate currents begin rising from the limestone itself. They are invisible except where the long tail feathers of a quetzal headdress gently tremble above a shoulder. The movement is almost imperceptible, more suggestion than motion, yet it reveals that even stone participates in the endless exchange between earth and sky. Heat climbs, air follows, feathers answer. A single cycle unfolds without beginning or end. Far across the great plaza, sunlight spreads over the smooth stucco floor until it resembles a pale river flowing between Temple I and Temple II. The brightness does not remain still. Minute by minute it advances, withdrawing from one corner while quietly claiming another, tracing a path that no hand has drawn. Perhaps light has always been the city's gentlest traveler. It arrives empty-handed. It leaves without taking anything. Near the edge of the plaza, a weathered surface catches your attention. Beneath centuries of careful resurfacing lie older floors, hidden one beneath another like forgotten seasons resting below fresh soil. Every generation spread another layer of stucco across the one before, not to erase what existed, but to continue walking upon it. The city grows upward through memory, not through replacement. Beneath every visible step sleeps another. The same quiet truth belongs to the North Acropolis. Its terraces seem natural now, almost inevitable. Yet every elevation conceals earlier buildings, embraced rather than abandoned. Time has never argued with itself here. It simply settles gently upon what already exists. A hill becomes a sanctuary becomes another hill. The distinction fades. The breeze carries a new fragrance. Warm resin drifts from distant trees, while the scent of sunlit limestone grows more noticeable with every hour. There is something dry within it, almost chalk-like, softened by the sweetness of damp vegetation awakening around it. Together they create a perfume impossible to separate into individual parts. Stone smells faintly of forest. The forest quietly remembers stone. From somewhere beyond the nearest ridge comes the measured sound of work. A hammerstone meets limestone. Then silence. Another careful strike follows much later. The rhythm is patient enough that birds continue singing between each sound, never startled, never interrupted. There is no urgency in the shaping of stone. Every blow simply discovers a fracture that has been waiting since the rock first emerged from the ancient sea. Even the tools seem humble. A chert edge traces its path across pale limestone with slow determination. Sand mixed with water smooths rough surfaces grain by grain. Wooden wedges swollen by moisture gently persuade the hidden fissures to open. Nothing is forced. The stone is invited to become something new. Nearby, another kiln breathes quietly. Its fire burns unseen behind stacked limestone destined for transformation. Within the intense heat, pale rock gradually changes into lime, while enormous quantities of fresh wood surrender themselves to flame. Forest becomes fire. Fire becomes plaster. Plaster becomes temple. The city rises not from a single gift, but from many quiet exchanges. No tree disappears without leaving part of itself within the stone. The growing warmth draws tiny white traces of calcium dust from an ancient wall. They settle softly upon waiting hands before the slightest breeze carries them away again. The particles are almost weightless, yet each began as mountain. Perhaps every great thing eventually learns the grace of becoming small. Toward the western horizon, above the broad forms of Mundo Perdido, the sky remains perfectly clear. The pyramids resting there seem quieter than those surrounding the great plaza, though perhaps it is only because they have spent so many mornings patiently watching the sun choose its place along the distant horizon. Observation leaves few visible marks. Its greatest work happens within memory. Some lessons cannot be carved. They must be lived repeatedly until they become part of one's breathing. As the day continues, the forest canopy below begins shimmering beneath increasing humidity. Invisible water rises from countless leaves, warmed by sunlight, joining the air little by little until the atmosphere itself feels heavier. The first clouds gather almost unnoticed, their white forms slowly growing taller above the endless green. They cast no immediate shadow, only possibility. The coming rains already exist inside them, though they remain hidden for now, just as reservoirs once waited quietly for thirsty months, just as seeds wait beneath fallen leaves. Patience seems to flow through every living and silent thing alike. A carved stela stands nearby, its face warmed by the strengthening sun. Fine shadows settle inside each glyph, making the ancient signs appear deeper than they truly are. Light enters the carved recesses differently every hour, revealing new details without changing the stone itself. The inscription has never moved. Only the sunlight has. Perhaps understanding grows in much the same way, not because truth changes, because we return at another hour. A dragonfly glides briefly across the open plaza before disappearing toward the trees. For an instant, its transparent wings catch the brilliant tropical light, flashing like tiny fragments of polished jade before becoming invisible once more. Even the smallest traveler carries the morning differently. Some with feathers, some with wings of glass, some with nothing but light itself. Above the city, the blue sky continues widening until it seems impossible to imagine the quiet stars that only a few hours earlier filled every corner of the heavens. Yet they have not truly departed. They simply wait beyond the brightness, keeping their place with the same faithful patience that stone keeps beneath the sun. And somewhere within that gentle rhythm of waiting, where the warmth of another tropical day continues gathering inside ancient limestone, the city once again becomes both memory and present, holding them together so gently that neither ever asks to exist without the other. The sun continues its quiet ascent until the coolness of morning becomes only a gentle memory lingering beneath the deepest shade. Across the limestone ridges, warmth settles with remarkable patience, filling every terrace, every courtyard, every broad stairway, without ever appearing to hurry. The city does not resist the heat. It has learned to breathe with it. Along the open face of Temple Eye, sunlight now falls almost directly upon the pale stone. The smooth stucco glows softly beneath the tropical sky, while tiny irregularities within its surface catch the light differently from one heartbeat to the next. No wall here is perfectly still, because light itself is always moving. Even permanence welcomes change. The broad staircase, rising toward the summit, appears almost endless from below. Its 9 terraces no longer seem merely stacked upon one another. Under the brightening sun, they resemble gentle pauses, inviting each step to become slower than the last. Climbing is never only movement upward. It is also movement inward. Halfway to the shrine, the warmth beneath your feet becomes unmistakable. The limestone has already begun gathering another day's store of sunlight, quietly preparing for the cool hours that will return long after dusk. Without knowing it, every ray that touches the stone is already becoming tomorrow night's comfort. The future often arrives disguised as ordinary warmth. Near the summit, the carved sapodilla lintels remain shaded for a little longer. Dense timber and pale limestone meet without competing, each carrying the memory of a different life. One once reached upward through leaves toward the sky. The other rested silently beneath ancient seas before emerging into light. Now they support the same doorway. The forest has entered the temple. The earth has joined it there. Passing through the narrow chambers, the air changes almost immediately. Outside, sunlight fills the terraces with brightness. Inside, the thick walls soften both light and sound until every breath seems slower. Even footsteps lose their sharpness beneath the corbelled vaults. Silence acquires texture. It settles gently upon the skin like cool shade after a long walk beneath the sun. Within these chambers, the scent of limestone mingles with the faint memory of copal that once lingered here through countless ceremonies. Though the smoke itself vanished long ago, The imagination almost expects to find it still resting quietly within the corners where sunlight rarely reaches. Some fragrances disappear, others become part of place itself. Beyond the doorway, the great plaza stretches outward beneath increasing brightness. Heat begins dancing invisibly above its smooth stucco floor, gently bending distant outlines until temples seem to breathe against the shimmering air. The city has not moved. Only warmth has learned another language. Somewhere across the open space, a single voice rises from the summit of the opposite temple. It is not loud. It carries no urgency. Yet it travels with astonishing ease, gliding across the plaza before reaching waiting ears far away. The broad limestone surfaces receive the sound as naturally as they receive sunlight. Neither is held. Both are returned. One invisible, one radiant. The city understands each equally well. Beyond the plazas, where the monumental ridges gradually surrender themselves to endless forest, another conversation unfolds beneath the canopy. Leaves now absorb the full strength of the tropical day, lifting invisible streams of moisture toward the growing clouds above. The forest exhales, the sky slowly listens. Far overhead, white towers of cloud continue gathering upon rising columns of warm air. Their lower edges remain brilliantly lit, while their upper reaches slowly grow taller, expanding almost too gradually to notice. No thunder yet, only quiet preparation. The afternoon has already begun long before anyone speaks its name. Among the branches, the great ceiba stands almost motionless, despite the strengthening warmth. Its immense trunk rises toward the canopy with the calm certainty of something that has forgotten the meaning of haste. Around it, mahogany trees lift water through hidden veins toward leaves glittering beneath the sun. The forest is filled with journeys no eye can see. Water climbs. Light descends. Roots descend farther still. Every direction belongs to life. Nearby, a polished jade ornament catches a sudden beam of sunlight. For only an instant, the cool green stone flashes with remarkable brilliance before returning once more to quiet reflection. It remains pleasantly cool despite the surrounding heat, holding its own silent rhythm against the tropical day. Touch teaches differently than sight. The eye notices brightness. The hand remembers temperature. A gentle movement sends several jade pieces lightly together. The clear note they produce hangs briefly within the warm air before dissolving into birdsong drifting from the surrounding trees. Stone answering feather, mineral answering wing. Nothing insists upon being heard alone. The fragrance of fresh vegetation deepens as the day advances. Resin warms within tree bark. Damp soil hidden beneath broad leaves releases a rich earthy sweetness. High above, orchids that perfume the night now rest quietly until darkness returns once more. The forest never repeats itself. It simply changes the voice through which it speaks. A small breeze wanders unexpectedly across the ridge. It carries relief without completely cooling the air. As it brushes against the porous openings of a distant roof column, another low whisper emerges from the temple itself. Daylight gives the sound a different character than midnight had. It feels lighter now, almost playful, as though the wind has awakened alongside the city. The same stone, the same breeze, a different hour. Everything familiar becomes quietly new. Far below the plaza's surface, hidden beneath layers of carefully renewed stucco, older footsteps remain undisturbed. They no longer press against the visible earth. yet they continue supporting every path walked today. Perhaps memory resembles these buried flaws, invisible, essential, never asking to be seen in order to carry what comes after. And while the tropical sun continues its patient climb toward the highest point it will reach before beginning its gentle return, the city receives every passing moment with the same calm acceptance that has always allowed time itself to settle here, as softly as sunlight upon ancient stone. As the tropical day ripens, the rhythm of the city becomes almost indistinguishable from the rhythm of the forest surrounding it. Neither dominates the other. The limestone ridges simply continue offering their quiet certainty, while leaves above them respond to every invisible movement of air. The sun climbs closer to its highest path. Shadows shorten. Corners that welcomed coolness only a little while ago gradually surrender themselves to brightness. Along the broad faces of the temples, the contrast between light and shade softens until the monuments appear carved almost entirely from sunlight itself. The eye begins noticing fewer edges. The hand notices more warmth. Touch the smooth coating of ancient lime plaster once again. The chalky surface feels dry beneath your fingertips. Yet beneath that pale skin rests dense limestone that has patiently gathered heat since dawn. Layer after layer, energy slips inward, disappearing from sight while remaining carefully preserved. Stone remembers differently than flesh. Our skin forgets yesterday's warmth. The temple quietly carries it into tomorrow. The great plaza shimmers beneath the strengthening tropical sun. The broad expanse of stucco reflects light upward with remarkable generosity, filling the open space with a gentle brightness that reaches even the lower terraces of the surrounding monuments. There are few deep shadows left now. Everything seems equally welcomed. Perhaps this is why voices continue traveling so effortlessly here. Somewhere across the plaza, a quiet conversation unfolds between distant figures. No one raises a voice. There is no need. The open floor, hardened through generations of careful resurfacing, offers back each word almost as faithfully as the pale limestone walls themselves. Speech does not conquer distance. It simply finds a willing path. The city has spent centuries learning how to carry human breath. Beyond the plaza, where monumental stone gradually gives way to endless green, the forest speaks another language entirely. Countless leaves now absorb the full brilliance of the tropical sun. Water lifted from hidden roots escapes invisibly into the warming air, surrounding the canopy with moisture so subtle that only the growing clouds reveal its patient work. Every tree offers something upward. No tree keeps everything for itself. The sky grows because the forest is generous. High overhead, white clouds continue rising upon invisible columns of warm air. Their bright towers expand slowly, almost imperceptibly, reaching higher while maintaining soft, rounded forms that promise rain without yet delivering it. They resemble thoughts still forming, complete enough to exist, not yet ready to fall. The breeze becomes quieter. For a few peaceful moments, even the highest quetzal feathers remain perfectly still. Without movement, their remarkable colors change once again. Emerald softens into deep green. Green slips toward blue, where sunlight meets each delicate surface from another angle. Nothing about them has changed. Only the light has found another way of seeing. Nearby, a polished jade ornament rests against woven cloth. The stone remains surprisingly cool. Hours of increasing heat have touched everything around it, yet the jade seems unwilling to surrender its own quiet nature. When lifted gently into the sunlight, its smooth surface catches faint reflections of surrounding leaves, carrying the forest inside itself without ever ceasing to be stone. Perhaps true strength is not refusing change. It is remaining yourself while welcoming what surrounds you. A soft clink follows as two pieces meet. The note disappears almost immediately beneath the steady chorus of insects hidden throughout the canopy. Their voices have changed since dawn. Morning birds now rest more quietly, while countless smaller lives weave a delicate web of continuous sound beneath the midday warmth. The forest never becomes silent. It merely rearranges its choir. Somewhere deep among shaded branches, unseen orchids rest with closed blossoms after their fragrant labor beneath the night sky. They ask nothing from the daylight. Their season of perfume has already passed. Another will come. Nothing here fears waiting. The path between temples carries the scent of warming limestone, mixed with damp vegetation rising from shaded courtyards. Occasionally the fragrance of resin drifts through the air where sunlight has awakened hidden oils within tree bark. The aroma lingers only briefly before another breeze gently rearranges it. Even fragrance refuses permanence. Perhaps that is why it is remembered so clearly. Passing beside one weathered wall, your hand gathers another trace of pale dust. Tiny grains remain upon your fingertips. They seem almost insignificant. Yet each particle once belonged to immense cliffs, resting beneath prehistoric seas. The smallest fragment still carries the age of the mountain from which it came. Nothing becomes ordinary simply because it becomes small. Near the western ridge, where the ancient observatory quietly watches the horizon, the sun approaches another familiar position in its endless yearly journey. Every day differs by only the slightest measure from the one before it, yet those nearly invisible changes slowly become seasons. Patience has always measured more accurately than haste. No instrument announces the turning year, only returning light. The ridges themselves seem to understand. They remain exactly where they have always been, while everything around them continues changing. Forests grow denser, then open again. Rain arrives, departs, and returns. Clouds gather each afternoon before dissolving into evening. The temples receive every season without asking any of them to stay longer. Perhaps endurance is simply the art of welcoming every visitor equally. Far below the visible surface of the plaza, older layers of stucco continue resting beneath newer ones, hidden yet indispensable. They no longer reflect sunlight. They no longer receive footsteps. Still, without them, nothing above could remain level. The unseen quietly supports the visible. The forgotten gently carries the remembered. A broad leaf nearby trembles, almost imperceptibly. The first cooler current, descending from a growing cloud, brushes across the ridge, before disappearing into the forest below. It is only the slightest change in temperature, yet every living thing seems to notice. Birdsong pauses. Leaves whisper together. The air itself feels expectant. Somewhere beyond the endless green, afternoon is slowly gathering its rain, and across the warm limestone terraces, where sunlight continues storing itself deep within the ancient heart of the city, every quiet breath, every drifting fragrance, every passing cloud, and every patient stone remains part of the same unbroken conversation that has never needed words to understand itself. The first hint of change arrives so quietly that it is almost mistaken for imagination. The sunlight still pours across the ridges with unwavering generosity, yet the air now carries a softness that was absent only moments before. Somewhere beyond the visible horizon, rising columns of warm moisture have begun their slow conversation with the cooling heights above. No sound announces it. Only the light becomes gentler. The immense sky remains brilliantly blue, but towering white clouds continue lifting themselves higher over the endless forest. Their edges shine with remarkable clarity, while their hidden interiors slowly gather deeper shades of silver. They are becoming heavier, not with urgency, with quiet intention. Below them, the ceiba trees stand like patient witnesses. Their broad crowns receive every passing breeze before the movement travels downward through countless branches, reaching younger trees hidden beneath the canopy. What begins high above arrives below only after many gentle exchanges. Even the wind prefers conversation to command. Along the limestone terraces, warmth continues radiating upward from the stone itself. The temples have accepted hours of tropical sunlight, storing invisible energy within their vast bodies. Standing beside a wall, you can almost feel the ancient limestone breathing warmth into the surrounding air. The city carries sunlight inside itself, not to possess it, only to return it later after darkness has quietly reclaimed the forest. Perhaps every act of keeping is simply another form of future giving. Across the great plaza, the brightness upon the white stucco shifts almost imperceptibly as a passing cloud softens the sun for only a few breaths. The pale surface no longer gleams with the same sharp brilliance. Instead, it reflects a calmer light that seems to gather rather than scatter. Nothing has disappeared. Only contrast has become gentler. The change invites another sound to emerge. Somewhere near Temple 2, a wooden drum speaks once. Its deep voice travels effortlessly across the open plaza, carried by the remarkable partnership between hardened stucco and limestone walls. The note does not rush toward distant ears. It unfolds with extraordinary patience, lingering just long enough for silence to accompany it. Sound is never alone here. Silence always walks beside it. The terraces answer differently than they did before. The warm air has changed the character of every echo. What returns now feels rounder, softer, almost wrapped within the humid atmosphere itself. The stone has not forgotten its gift for carrying voices, yet the day itself gently reshapes the journey. Even echoes age from morning into afternoon. Beyond the monumental heart of the city, hidden among countless leaves, invisible streams of moisture continue rising from the forest floor. Every broad leaf warmed by the sun contributes another small offering to the sky. One leaf, then another, then millions more. No single tree creates the cloud. Together they reshape the heavens. The fragrance drifting across the ridges grows richer now. Warm limestone still carries its faint chalk like dryness, but it mingles with the increasingly sweet scent of damp vegetation, preparing for rain. Resin released by heated bark lingers beneath it all, creating an aroma both earthy and luminous. The air itself feels alive enough to remember. Passing beneath the shelter of a shaded passage within the central acropolis, the temperature changes immediately. Thick limestone walls preserve pockets of lingering coolness, untouched by the open sun outside. The transition is so gentle that it resembles stepping beneath the surface of calm water. The body notices before the mind does. Stone has always understood comfort. without speaking of it. Light enters these spaces differently. Instead of flooding every surface, it slips quietly through narrow openings, tracing slow, moving patterns across worn floors before disappearing again. Every hour redraws the rooms without altering their shape. Architecture becomes another kind of clock, not one that measures minutes, one that measures sunlight. Nearby, a carved lintel quietly spans another doorway. Its sapodilla wood has carried immense weight through countless seasons of heat, humidity, storms, and returning sunshine. The grain appears darker now where generations of hands have polished it almost unconsciously while passing beneath. Touch leaves no monument, yet it transforms everything slowly enough. Above the city, a lone bird circles effortlessly within rising currents of warm air. It rarely beats its wings. Invisible movements beneath it provide everything necessary for flight. Trust often appears motionless. Far beyond the plaza, where the forest stretches toward distant ridges, the great canopy begins revealing subtle differences in color. Leaves nearest the clouds darken slightly beneath fleeting shadows, while those still bathing in uninterrupted sunlight glow with remarkable intensity. The jungle becomes a map written entirely in light. Every passing cloud rewrites it. Nothing protests the revision. Near the ancient observatory of Mundo Perdido, the western pyramid continues watching the eastern horizon with the same unwavering patience it has offered through generations. The path of the sun shifts, almost imperceptibly from one day to the next, yet those nearly invisible changes quietly shape seasons, harvests, journeys, and memory itself. The greatest movements often hide within the smallest differences. A broad leaf catches the first cool droplet, not rain, only condensed moisture falling from somewhere high within the canopy. The drop lands without sound before disappearing into the warm earth below. One drop becomes another. The forest rehearses the coming storm. The insects respond first. Their steady chorus changes almost too gradually to notice, certain voices fading while others quietly replace them. Nothing falls silent. The melody simply chooses different instruments. A faint current of cooler air wanders once more across the great plaza. It brushes the weathered faces of carved stela, glides over smooth stucco, slips through the open chambers of the temples, and continues toward reservoirs that once began as quarries beside these same monuments. Stone that had been lifted upward now protects the water left behind below. What was removed became shelter. What remained became life. The city has always understood that nothing truly stands alone. And beneath the slowly growing afternoon sky, where warm limestone, rising clouds, patient trees, and wandering voices continue weaving themselves together without ever asking who began the story, another quiet hour settles naturally into the long memory of Tikal. The afternoon settles over the ridges with a quieter light than the morning ever carried. The towering clouds now drift high above the forest like slow, moving mountains of vapor, softening the brilliance of the sun without hiding it completely. Their broad shadows wander gently across the canopy, crossing countless trees before touching the pale faces of the temples. The city changes with every passing cloud, not because the stone moves, because light never remains in one place. A broad staircase that glowed only moments ago now rests beneath cool shade. The limestone responds almost immediately. Its stored warmth continues rising softly into the surrounding air, but its surface no longer dazzles the eye. Instead, it reveals subtler textures, the tiny pores left by ancient seas, the faint traces of plaster worn smooth by generations that climbed these same terraces. Time leaves few sharp edges. It prefers gentleness. Near the summit of Temple Ivy, the breeze strengthens. It slips through the porous openings of the immense roof column before descending the towering monument in quiet currents. The sound it creates is almost impossible to separate from the wind itself, a low, patient whisper shaped as much by empty space as by stone. The temple does not speak. It simply gives the air another voice. From this height, the forest becomes an endless living sea. The canopy stretches toward every horizon, rising and falling across limestone ridges while carefully avoiding the lower swamps hidden beneath curtains of green. From above, those bajos appear as darker patches within the forest, quietly holding the moisture that the higher ground gently refuses. The city never argued with the land. It listened first. Only then did it begin to build. The ridges offer firmness beneath every monumental foundation. Their ancient limestone carries not only temples but memory itself, lifting both above the seasonal waters resting below. Elevation here is more than height. It is conversation with the earth. Far below, nearly hidden among trees, a calm reservoir reflects the changing sky. Long ago it was an open quarry where pale limestone blocks slowly emerged beneath patient hands. When its gift of stone was complete, clay sealed its hollow, transforming absence into abundance. What once provided walls now gathers rain. Nothing remains, only one thing. The reflection upon the still water changes each time another cloud passes overhead. Blue becomes silver, silver becomes white, then blue quietly returns. The reservoir never chooses its own color. It welcomes whichever sky arrives. Nearby, dragonflies drift effortlessly above the quiet surface, their transparent wings catching brief flashes of softened sunlight before vanishing once more into invisible motion. Even light enjoys traveling lightly. The first distant rumble reaches the city. It is so soft that it might easily be mistaken for wind moving through the forest. Yet somewhere beyond the visible ridges, warm afternoon clouds have begun exchanging their stored silence for rain. No urgency follows the sound, only reassurance. The sky has remembered another ancient rhythm. Across the great plaza, the softened daylight changes the voices of the monuments once again. Temple I no longer casts the deep, defined shadow it offered earlier. Instead, its outline dissolves gently into the surrounding brightness, allowing stone and sky to meet without sharp division. Boundaries fade before they disappear. Perhaps that is how every ending begins. A figure crosses the plaza without haste. Each footstep presses lightly against the hardened stucco before continuing toward another stairway. Beneath those steps lie older surfaces, each one hidden beneath the next, each still quietly supporting the journey above. The visible path depends upon invisible ones, so does memory. The breeze carries another fragrance. The scent of warm limestone remains, but it is now joined by the unmistakable freshness that arrives before tropical rain. Damp leaves release hidden oils. Resin cools slightly within the bark. The air becomes fuller without becoming heavy. The forest inhales. The clouds answer. Within the shaded chambers near the temple's summits, coolness still lingers despite the long afternoon. Thick walls resist sudden change, preserving gentle pockets of calm while the outer terraces continue gathering warmth. Perhaps peace is not the absence of change. Perhaps it is the ability to change slowly. A polished jade pendant rests against woven cloth as another breeze passes. Its surface remains cool. Its green seems deeper now, beneath the softened light filtering through the growing clouds. When it moves, the familiar clear note rings once more before disappearing into the immense breathing of the forest. Rain has always sounded different before it falls. Birdsong begins changing almost imperceptibly. Some voices grow quieter. Others emerge from deeper within the canopy, where shade has already become evening long before the sun approaches the horizon. Invisible insects continue weaving delicate threads of sound between every pause, creating a tapestry too intricate for any single ear to fully follow. No listener hears everything. The forest never asks them to. High above the canopy, the clouds continue climbing, though they seem almost motionless. Their highest towers now rise far beyond ordinary sight, shaped by warm currents ascending from millions upon millions of leaves below. The jungle builds its own sky each afternoon, one breath at a time. Near Mundo Perdido, the western pyramid waits beneath shifting light with the same unwavering patience that has watched countless solstices, equinoxes, and zenith passages unfold across the centuries. Today the sun follows only one quiet step within that immeasurable procession. Tomorrow it will take another. The movement is almost invisible. Its consequences shape entire seasons. A single broad leaf bends beneath another tiny droplet condensed from the humid air. It trembles. The drop slides along its edge, then quietly joins the earth beneath. No applause follows. The forest has always known that the smallest journeys nourish the greatest rivers. Across the upper terraces, the limestone continues holding the warmth gathered since dawn, preparing once again to release it little by little when darkness returns. Without announcing its purpose, the stone is already caring for a night that has not yet arrived. Perhaps wisdom resembles this quiet generosity, offering comfort before anyone realizes it will be needed. And while the clouds continue their slow procession above the ancient ridges, while reservoirs mirror a changing sky and hidden roots quietly lift tomorrow's rain through the living forest, Tikal remains suspended between earth and heaven with the same serene patience that has always allowed every passing hour to become another gentle layer within its endless remembrance. The air grows quieter in a way that only the forest can recognize. It is not silence, but a gentle rearrangement of countless small voices as the afternoon matures beneath the gathering sky. The towering clouds continue their slow ascent, their brilliant crowns expanding into heights unseen from below, while their broad foundations drift patiently across the limestone ridges. Sunlight now arrives in long, unhurried intervals. A cloud passes, brightness softens. Another opening appears. The city seems to breathe with the heavens themselves. The highest terraces of Temple IV welcome each change without preference. One moment the limestone glows with warm gold, the next it rests beneath cool silver light. Neither lasts very long. Both are accepted equally. Perhaps peace is simply learning to greet every season of light with the same quiet heart. Far below, the great plaza no longer shines as a single uninterrupted expanse. Slow-moving shadows drift across its smooth stucco floor like invisible tides crossing a pale shore. Temple I and Temple II appear to exchange the sunlight between them, each receiving what the other gently releases. Nothing here competes for brightness. Light has always known enough for everyone. The warmth gathered inside the stone continues rising in delicate currents. They climb unseen along weathered stairways before dissolving into the humid afternoon air, carrying with them the memory of every hour since dawn. A temple does not merely stand beneath the sun. It quietly stores an entire day. Long after evening returns, that invisible gift will continue unfolding one gentle breath at a time. Near the summit shrine, the carved sapodilla lintels rest beneath softened light filtering through the doorway. Their deep grain appears almost liquid, where countless tropical seasons have polished the dense wood. The tree from which they came once listened to rain through leaves. Now it listens through stone. Its journey did not end. It simply learned another form. Within the narrow chambers, cool air lingers patiently. Thick limestone walls hold back the warmth outside with remarkable calm, creating a refuge that changes only gradually while the world beyond continues, flowing from brightness toward shadow. Time moves differently inside shelter. Perhaps that is why memory often chooses quiet places. Outside once more, the breeze carries the unmistakable fragrance of moisture waiting to become rain. Warm resin has softened. The sweetness of damp earth begins, rising before a single drop has fallen. Even the limestone seems to release a gentler scent beneath the changing sky. The forest always knows before the eye does. Far beyond the visible ridges, another low murmur rolls across the horizon. Thunder, still distant, still patient. Its voice reaches the city softened by countless layers of humid air, less like a warning than a reminder that the clouds have begun opening conversations among themselves. No one answers. No answer is required. The reservoirs resting quietly among the ridges remain perfectly still. Their surfaces reflect passing clouds with such clarity that sky and water exchange places for a moment before another breeze gently blurs the image. The quarry remembers becoming empty. The water remembers filling it. Both memories belong to the same place. Nearby, tiny insects skim across the calm surface, tracing brief circles that disappear almost immediately. Their delicate movements leave no lasting mark. Yet for a heartbeat, the water carries their story. Every life changes something, even if only for an instant. The forest canopy deepens into richer shades of green beneath the passing clouds. Leaves nearest the upper branches brighten whenever sunlight returns, while those hidden below continue living within permanent twilight. Above and below exist together without contradiction. The same forest contains many skies, one above the canopy, another beneath it. The great ceiba lifts both upon its towering trunk. Its immense roots disappear into unseen depths, while its highest branches receive the first cool breath descending from the afternoon clouds. Between those distant worlds, the trunk remains still, joining what never truly separated. The world tree requires no explanation. It simply grows. Across the open plaza, another voice rises from a temple summit. It is little more than a greeting, yet the words travel effortlessly over the broad stucco floor, carried by the patient geometry of opposing temples and open space. No strain enters the voice. The city completes the sentence on its behalf. Stone becomes companion. Distance becomes kindness. Listening becomes architecture. A pair of jade ornaments touch lightly as someone turns. The clear, bright note seems almost like a raindrop striking polished stone. Perhaps that is why such sounds always feel familiar. The earth has been practicing them long before human hands learned to shape jade. High overhead, the clouds continue building invisible towers where warm rising air meets cooler heights. Within them, countless tiny droplets gather around particles too small to notice, slowly becoming heavy enough for another journey downward. The sky is never separate from the forest. It is the forest rising. Soon it will return. The observatory at Mundo Perdido waits beneath this changing sky with its ancient certainty. The horizon remains exactly where it has always been, though the light resting upon it changes from moment to moment. Every passing day leaves an almost invisible difference along that distant line. One morning alone teaches little. Thousands reveal the calendar hidden inside the sun. The insects sing more steadily now. Birdsong has become occasional, offered in brief moments between long stretches of gentle stillness. Somewhere beyond sight, a howler monkey allows a single distant call to drift across the humid air. The deep resonance rolls over the canopy before gradually dissolving among countless leaves. Even the forest possesses voices that seem older than speech. The first truly cool breeze of the afternoon arrives at last. It slips over the upper terraces, brushes worn limestone, stirs quiet feathers, glides through the roof combs, and continues toward the hidden reservoirs below. The temperature changes only slightly, yet the entire city seems to welcome it without movement. Sometimes relief is measured in only a few degrees. Sometimes that is enough. The broad stones continue holding the warmth they have gathered since sunrise, not clinging to it, only preserving it until the coming night quietly asks for its return. In that patient exchange between light received and warmth given away, the city once again becomes a gentle participant in the endless generosity of the living world, where nothing truly belongs to itself for very long, and everything quietly prepares to become a gift for something yet to come. The waiting becomes almost tangible, not because the city grows restless, because every stone, every leaf, every breath of warm air seems quietly aware that another familiar turning of the day is approaching. The clouds no longer gather upward with the same eagerness. They have reached their patient fullness, drifting above the limestone ridges with the calm certainty of travelers who already know where they are going. The sunlight filters through them in broad, luminous veils. Nothing loses its beauty. Everything becomes softer. The brilliant white stucco of the great plaza now reflects a quieter glow, as though the earth itself has lowered its voice. Temple I, Temple II, the North Acropolis, and the royal palaces seem less separated by distance than by different shades of the same gentle light. Brightness no longer defines the city. Presence does. The warmth stored inside the limestone has reached its quiet abundance. Every terrace, every stair, every broad platform has gathered enough sunlight to offer comfort long after the sky begins releasing it. Even now, standing beside the pale walls, you can feel a slow current of warmth drifting outward. The stone gives without being asked. Perhaps that is the oldest form of generosity. A breeze arrives carrying the cool scent of distant rain. It slips through open courtyards, traces worn stairways, and brushes gently across carved stelae whose ancient glyphs deepen beneath the softened light. Their shadows change once again, revealing signs that only moments earlier remained almost invisible. Stone writes the same story every day. Light chooses which words to reveal. Far beyond the monumental heart of the city, the forest begins answering the approaching weather long before the first drop descends. Broad leaves tilt almost imperceptibly. Tiny insects disappear beneath bark. Birds shorten their songs, leaving longer spaces between each call. Silence is never empty. It is often preparation. Somewhere within the immense canopy, a howler monkey releases another low voice that rolls slowly above the trees before fading into humid air. It seems less like a call than a memory moving through the forest. Distance softens everything. Even power becomes peaceful. High atop Temple Ivy, the breeze threads once more through the great roof calm. The porous stone welcomes moving air exactly as it welcomed sunlight earlier, transforming invisible motion into a quiet, resonant whisper. Morning allowed the wind to sing. Afternoon allows it to breathe. The same openings, a different conversation. Far below, the reservoirs remain still. Their surfaces have darkened beneath the clouds, becoming polished mirrors that hold entire pieces of the sky within their calm depths. Once, these hollows surrendered limestone for the city's temples. Now they patiently receive rain for seasons yet to come. The earth remembers every gift it has offered. Nothing truly disappears. It simply returns wearing another face. Near the western horizon, where the ancient observatory continues its patient watch, the sunlight reaches the ridges at a slightly gentler angle. Almost no eye would notice the difference from yesterday. Yet the horizon does. The stone does. The calendar quietly continues without needing a single spoken word. Every day leaves behind an almost invisible footprint. Together they become years. The air grows heavier with moisture. Breathing feels softer now, carrying the subtle fragrance of wet earth before the rain has even touched it. Resin limestone, fresh leaves, distant flowers and warm bark blend into a perfume that belongs only to these quiet moments before the storm. No artisan could preserve it. Only memory can. Within the shaded chambers of the temples, coolness still lingers patiently. The thick limestone walls have spent the day resisting haste, accepting warmth only little by little. Their calm will continue through the evening, releasing what they gathered at exactly the same gentle pace. The city never hurries its kindness. Perhaps that is why it endures. A single droplet finally falls. It lands upon the broad leaf of an orchid hidden beneath the canopy. Not from the clouds, from the forest itself. Condensed moisture gathered quietly overhead before surrendering once more to gravity. The leaf bends, the droplet slides. The earth receives it without sound. The first rain often begins long before the sky notices. Then another arrives. This one falls from higher above. It strikes warm limestone with a faint whisper that disappears almost immediately. One drop, then stillness. No rush follows. The clouds seem content to begin their conversation slowly. Across the great plaza, the broad stucco floor accepts the tiny dark circles left by scattered drops before the warmth beneath gently invites them back into the air. Water arrives. Stone remembers the sun. The meeting is brief. Nothing argues. The breeze cools by only a few gentle degrees. Yet every living thing responds. Leaves relax. The insects alter their steady chorus once more. The distant birds call again, though more softly than before, as if speaking beneath the same enormous roof of cloud. The forest has entered another hour. The temples enter it beside the forest. Above the city, the immense clouds drift onward, carrying within them countless rivers not yet released. Some will fall here, others beyond distant ridges. Still others will continue traveling until another forest quietly invites them home. Rain belongs to no single place, only to the journey. The warmth held inside the limestone begins its slow offering back to the cooling afternoon, almost unnoticed except by the gentle currents rising beside every terrace. What sunlight entrusted to the city at dawn now quietly prepares to comfort the coming evening. Nothing is kept forever. Not light, not water, not time. Each simply pauses long enough to become part of another life before continuing its endless passage through the living world. The scattered drops linger for a while without becoming a storm. They arrive one by one, disappearing into warm limestone, broad leaves, quiet reservoirs, and waiting earth. Each seems to carry its own small measure of sky, touching the city gently before continuing another unseen journey. The forest receives them without surprise. It has always recognized familiar footsteps. A second breeze follows, cooler than the first. It slips through the upper chambers of Temple IV, wanders along the broad stairways of Temple I, circles the royal courtyards of the central Acropolis, and finally settles for a moment across the wide floor of the great plaza. The air feels lighter, not because less surrounds it, because warmth and moisture have found a quieter balance. Tiny circles expand across the surface of an aguada before dissolving back into perfect stillness. The reflections of drifting clouds break apart for only an instant, then quietly become whole again. Water has never feared interruption. It already knows how to return to itself. Beyond the ridges, the afternoon rain remains scattered, falling through different parts of the Petin Basin with the gentle unpredictability that belongs to tropical seasons. One distant forest receives a steady curtain of silver, while another waits beneath bright sunlight, only a short walk away. The clouds never divide the world equally, yet the earth welcomes each gift without comparison. The fragrance rising from the jungle deepens. Moist bark releases hidden oils. Fresh limestone carries a faint mineral sweetness. Wet leaves awaken aromas that remained invisible beneath the stronger heat of midday. Somewhere nearby, night, blooming orchids begin preparing for the hours ahead, their unopened flowers quietly gathering the volatile scents they will release after sunset to guide unseen moths through darkness. Some invitations are written in perfume rather than light. The day begins folding itself more slowly now. The shadows cast by the temples lengthen across the plaza, no longer sharp, but feathered gently by the humid air. Stone and shadow seem less like opposites than companions walking side by side. Nothing in nature insists on clear boundaries. Even evening arrives gradually. Near Mundo Perdido, the western pyramid continues its silent watch across the eastern horizon. Though the sun has already begun descending toward another day's close, the memory of its yearly path remains held within these ancient alignments. Solstices, equinoxes, zenith passages, they are not separate events here, but quiet repetitions woven into the breathing of the world. The sky remembers, the stone remembers. Together they keep time without counting it aloud. Within the temple chambers, coolness now mingles with the lingering warmth preserved inside the limestone. The walls have spent an entire day gathering and releasing energy so slowly that no single moment reveals the exchange. Perhaps endurance is nothing more than learning to change without haste. Outside, another brief shower passes across the upper canopy. Thousands of leaves answer together, not with one sound, but with countless delicate voices layered upon one another. Some drops strike broad ceiba leaves with a soft rhythm. Others disappear into moss, bark orchids, or vines before ever reaching the ground. Rain chooses many paths. The forest welcomes everyone. Far beneath the trees, the earth drinks quietly. The porous limestone ridges guide water downward through hidden fractures carved over ages beyond memory. Invisible channels carry it patiently toward reservoirs and deep places where another season will one day ask for it again. Nothing is wasted. The journey simply grows longer. A faint movement catches the eye above the plaza. A quetzal crosses between distant trees, its long emerald tail feathers drifting effortlessly behind it. Beneath the muted afternoon light, the feathers no longer blaze with brilliant green. Instead, they shift gently between blue, green, and near, black as each angle receives the fading sun differently. Beauty has never belonged to one color, only to changing light, a jade ornament resting against woven cloth echoes that same quiet transformation. It remains cool despite the humid air, reflecting only the softest hints of the sky. When it moves, its clear lithophonic note rises once, delicate as the first drop striking still water. The sound lingers briefly. Then the forest carries it away without keeping it. The birds continue shortening their songs. In their place, insects gradually weave a denser tapestry across the gathering evening. Their countless voices fill the spaces between leaves until silence itself becomes textured, no longer empty, but alive with patient continuity. The jungle never grows quiet. It simply changes musicians. The first hints of dusk begin touching the highest clouds. Their bright white summits soften into pale gold before slowly deepening toward amber. Beneath them, the city remains wrapped in cooler shades of limestone and green, as though earth and sky have chosen different colors for the same peaceful hour. Above, the clouds continue their journey. Below, the temples continue theirs. Neither remains still, neither ever truly departs. Soon the warmth stored within the great pyramids will become more noticeable than the warmth arriving from the fading sun. The stone, having accepted an entire tropical day, will quietly return its borrowed light as invisible heat through the coming night. Warm currents will rise along the stairways. Feathers will stir gently. Moist air will drift upward through roof combs toward the first evening stars. The city has practiced this exchange for centuries beyond counting. Day offering itself to stone. Stone offering itself to night. Night offering itself to memory. And somewhere beyond the deepening canopy, where clouds continue wandering above forests that never ask them to stay, the endless conversation between rain, limestone trees, light and time carries on with the same quiet patience it always has, preparing the world for another peaceful evening that asks for nothing except a willing heart to remain long enough to listen. The lingering glow above the western ridges slowly loosens its hold upon the day. Colors do not disappear all at once. They simply become quieter, allowing gentler shades to take their place. Gold softens into amber. Amber settles into muted blue. The forest receives each change without ever asking the sun to remain a little longer. Nothing resists evening, not the trees, not the stone, not the sky. Across the broad terraces, warmth continues rising almost invisibly from the limestone. The tropical day has ended its long conversation with the temples, but the temples continue answering. Every step, every platform, every weathered wall quietly releases the sunlight it has carried since dawn. The city glows without shining. Its light is now felt more than seen. The scattered rain has already become memory upon the leaves. Moisture gathers along their edges before falling quietly into darker layers of the forest below. Thousands of tiny drops begin another descent through moss, vines, orchids, roots, and porous earth, each following a path known only to gravity and time. The forest never asks where the water has been, only where it is going. The first evening mist begins gathering low among the distant bargeors. Cooling air settles gently into the broad seasonal depressions surrounding the limestone ridges, carrying with it the moisture released by countless living plants throughout the day. The white veil remains close to the earth at first, almost shy, drifting between trunks before slowly rising toward the canopy. From the highest temples, it appears as another quiet river, one that flows without sound. Temple Ivy remains above it all. Its summit still reaches beyond the height where the first layers of evening moisture begin collecting. Standing here, the world below seems wrapped in soft white breath, while the air overhead remains astonishingly clear. The city has not disappeared. It has simply entered another atmosphere. The western horizon darkens. Above the eastern forest, one familiar point of light appears before any other. Venus, the bright wanderer, rises gently into the deepening sky, brilliant against the fading blue, long before the stars fill the heavens. This steady light quietly announces the coming night. It has returned countless times before. It asks for no celebration, only recognition. Far below, the city continues its evening without haste. A faint movement of jade accompanies an unhurried step through the plaza. The cool stones touch one another with a delicate ringing that briefly joins the growing chorus of insects before dissolving into the warm air. The sound resembles neither metal nor glass. It belongs only to stone that once rested deep within mountains. Nearby, the fragrance of copal begins rising from a quiet temple chamber. White aromatic smoke curls upward through still air, carrying the resinous breath of the forest back toward the open sky. Its slow ascent mirrors the countless vapors that climbed from leaves during the afternoon. What the earth offers below, the heavens gently receive above. The smoke drifts through narrow chambers where thick limestone walls soften every movement of air. Beyond the doorway, the evening breeze carries it into the open plaza before it disappears completely within the growing darkness. Not everything needs to remain visible to continue existing. The insects now hold the forest together with sound. Their countless voices weave an uninterrupted tapestry across the jungle, stretching from hidden roots to the highest branches of towering ceiba trees. Between them, an occasional frog offers its deep, measured call from somewhere near quiet water. No single voice leads. Together they become the night. Far beyond the city, a distant howler monkey allows another low resonance to travel across the humid canopy. The sound rolls through darkness with remarkable ease, helped by cool evening air and the moisture suspended above the forest. Distance grows gentler after sunset. Even powerful voices arrive softly. The mist continues climbing, slowly, patiently. By the deeper hours of the coming night, it will settle heavily across the lower forest, obscuring distant horizons while leaving the highest summits clear above a silent sea of white. The temples seem almost prepared for this familiar transformation, their towering forms quietly extending beyond the boundary where earth becomes cloud. Perhaps height was never only about seeing farther. Perhaps it was also about remaining close to the stars. Looking upward now, the heavens gradually reveal more companions. One by one, familiar lights emerge from the deepening blue until the broad river of the Milky Way begins stretching across the sky. Sometimes it rises almost upright, a luminous tree connecting unseen worlds. At other seasons it flows gently from horizon to horizon like an endless white road. Tonight it begins lifting itself slowly above the forest with quiet dignity, each faint star joining another until countless distant suns become a single path across eternity. No hand built this road, yet every traveler has walked beneath it. The ancient observatories remain silent. Their work continues without movement. The horizon still receives tomorrow's sunrise before any human eye has witnessed it. The calendar continues turning through invisible alignments. Solstice waits within ordinary mornings. Zenith waits inside familiar afternoons. Time never announces its greatest moments. It simply arrives. The limestone beneath your feet has cooled slightly now, though it still offers gentle warmth gathered from a vanished sun. The stone asks for nothing in return. It only completes the quiet exchange it began at dawn, receiving, holding, returning. Perhaps every life follows the same patient rhythm. Across the great plaza, darkness settles softly among temples, palaces, reservoirs, carved monuments, ancient stairways and quiet trees. Nothing has ended. The forest continues breathing. The stars continue moving. The limestone continues releasing its hidden warmth. The reservoirs continue reflecting whichever sky leans gently above them. And somewhere within the endless conversation between rain, stone, light, wind, memory, and the quiet passage of countless generations, Tikal remains exactly as every living place hopes to remain, not frozen in the past, but endlessly present for anyone willing to arrive with enough silence to hear its gentle heartbeat beneath the stars.